The reason why animals don't live as long as us is because there's also a really intentional part of their role, which is in the passing. They're also offering one of our biggest gifts, which is exactly the process you just experienced, that opportunity to come through. So it was like seeing kind of that really loving gift, almost that soul contract from the animal that said, I'm going to come in, I'm going to love you so hard while I'm here. But what I'm really going to do is I'm going to love you so hard when I go. The discomfort is where you know you're really doing the work. If you're only ever saying things that make everyone all the time happy and peaceful, which doesn't exist, it's not possible. But if that's our goal, then that means we're actually not doing the work in the sense, right? Where it really is the discomfort, because any transformation we've had in our life, we can almost, always pinpoint it to some version of discomfort we had to first face.
Hi, my friends. So, this episode is a little bit different. I'm speaking with Carissa Brockman, who is a beautiful human, an experienced counselor, and who is also in this episode starting to share more of her work doing Akashic Records readings for people. So I'm honored that she chose this platform to start sharing this a little bit more. And before we got into this episode, Carissa offered to do an Akashic Records reading for me so that I could see what it was all about. And before we got into the reading, I felt compelled to hit record. And I'm so glad that we did, because my Akashic Records reading turned into this entire podcast episode. And so we were recording this while my Akashic Records were open. And there are so many beautiful downloads, aha moments in this episode. It's a little bit longer, but there's just so much good in here. So I hope that you enjoy this as much as we did. Let's get into it. And it was funny, as I was walking around this morning, I got the guidance to record this. I was like, there might be something in the reading that,
I had that thought this morning too. I was like, oh, I wonder, yeah, perhaps we should record the actual reading itself because maybe there will be something. So,
yeah.
yes, we'll find out what that something is.
Okay, so full legal name.
Perfect.
That's it.
Yep, that's it. I'll just say Vanessa out loud, but then when I'm repeating it a couple times in my head silently, I'll be using your full legal name.
Okay.
So, all right. And so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth, as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us. O Holy Spirit of God, help me to know Vanessa in the light of the Akashic Records, to see Vanessa through the eyes of the Lords of the Records, and enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of Vanessa have for her. The records are now open. Okay. So now you can just, maybe notice what either question or area or curiosity that comes forward that you'd like us to explore a little bit, and I can just start to tell you what I notice, hear, receive.
Sure. Um, hmm. Okay. Let's maybe start. Okay, this might be a good starting point. So this morning, again, while I was on my walk, I've been getting all of these ideas for just more content that I can make on YouTube, but also like workbooks to create and things like that. I'm wondering if I feel like I'm on the right track, but I'm wondering if there's any extra guidance that might want to come through about that.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. There's almost like do you have a specific spirit guide that you connect with, or is there, okay,
There's multiple, but they seem to come in and out at different times for different things.
because I heard there's one that it's like your muse or something. There's one that really wants to co-create some projects with you right now. Okay.
Oh, I just got chills everywhere.
Yeah, there's a guy that definitely wants is like there's like a collaborative co-creative process in
Yeah.
this. Yeah. Yeah, they're like she knows. So, yeah. Um Now in connecting and channeling with that guide specifically, it's almost like I can see the downloads that happen when you're walking, but it's almost like you want to have like the Otter app or something to just be like as the ideas are coming through that you can just be almost like recording them
Oh.
while you're walking. Um, so that you get them almost unfiltered. Because like later you're like trying to remember and then you're kind of reorienting what it was versus like if you just go, okay, I just have this idea or this thought that's coming through and you can just say it. It's almost like that's going to give you the clearest transmission so that then you work off of that idea.
Oh.
Um, because as soon as we bring the thought into, it's like bringing thought into form. It's like bringing the idea into just spoken word. Then all of these other parts of us want to jump in and have a say about it and start kind of, giving their perspective and their side, and which is great. But there is something about in order to if we want to be working alongside spirit in something in like a co-creative project or process, we have to kind of allow that initial transmission to come through unfiltered and then be kind of having that reference point because otherwise it can almost become so filtered through our lens by the time we actually sit down with it that we've missed maybe the initial like um what's there's an image I'm seeing. It's almost like the heart of it, like the pulse of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I get so many ideas when I'm walking too that I get them and I'm like, this is amazing. And then I forget, or
Yeah.
I can't even type fast enough sometimes because it's just like,
Yeah.
it's so fast.
Hmm. Yeah.
Is it the Otter app?
Yeah, I think so. It's any kind of app that you can just do voice to text or voice to note memo or something like that.
Okay, I love this
Mm,
because it feels like there's lots that needs to be created this year,
mhm.
which is exciting.
Yeah, well, there's something about this year, just there's a whole lot of planetary things going on, but it feels like you in particular have worked pretty hard to create the space for the creative vortex to be moving. It's like I can see you've had to do a lot of energy work because in order for that creative energy to flow, we have to get a lot of the blockages out of the way. And so it's like you kind of have come through a phase of a lot of clearing work almost in a way, so that now the creative space has room to flow. It's like if you were a dancer and you really want to go dance in this dance hall, but there's just like boxes and storage and things everywhere. It's like, okay, in order for me to have this beautiful creative expression of dance in this space, I first got to do some like cleaning out here so that then that space is free and I can move without, getting injured. It's kind of, yeah. Yeah. So is that resonating with, okay.
100%.
Oh,
Yeah.
very cool.
I've been
Yeah.
doing so much clearing work. It's unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah. But it's for the purpose, right? There's a purpose to it because it can just be exhausting. We can be hauling those boxes and our back just wants to go out. It's like done, I can't do anymore. But it's actually showing there's just so much room now. That's why the energy is coming through so fast with the downloads. It's like, whoa, there's it's like so much room for activities.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that kind of energy is coming through.
I love that. Because, yeah, it was like, well, it's been a constant process, but in the last like 4 or 5 months, it's been I don't know. It's felt like I've been slowly working at things, but now it's just like, okay, we got to clear all of this out of here. Like, I need
Yeah.
room to move. Spirit needs room to come in.
Mhm.
Yeah, I felt like I needed to make room for all of this because I'm manifesting like pretty big stuff and it needs space.
Exactly. Yeah, that's just where I can see there's just the reason you're feeling like this is a big year for creation is because you've been doing the clearing space for that to be able to move and happen and flow and um yeah, and there and the spirit guide that is really particularly wanting to come through in this project. And I think you're gonna have some co-creations with it's not just going to be one throughout the year, but there's, what's currently coming through right now. It's like one spirit guide stepping up, being like, yep, I've got some ideas. I want to bring this through. And I think that just being able to, I can just hear that sense of, okay, and because there's so many ideas, because there's so much energy and activity, being able to just immediately speak that thought out. And so that it's written kind of in that most, clear, crystalline, like unfiltered version first will be then the really good foundation of whatever you're gonna build and create from there, because other parts might come in to participate as well. Because sometimes that will also help find the human collaborators, in different ways too. But it's like staying true to the heartbeat of it that first kind of came through that pulse. Um, mhm.
Love that.
Yeah.
That heart symbol has been coming through a lot too, even in my meditations.
Oh.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was interesting because I was trying to figure out the image that it was in it, but it's like it's the pulse, but it's like what creates the pulse. It's like I can see a light. It's like the photons almost. There's this energy, this electricity, this electromagnetic, like there's this pulse comes from this energy within. Like so it's almost like the heart within the heart, like the beat. Like there's an energy that's creating this heart to be beating. Um, and so I can see that it's like I can see the light that's within the heart that's beating because the light in the center is what's creating the pulse. So yeah, I think that was where I was trying to, okay, what am I seeing? Because I know there's a few things here, but there's something specific about that light, that kind of um, photon energy at the center.
Yeah, it's the seed,
Hmm.
the heart seed. I'm just doodling my little what I'm seeing too. If
Okay,
you
good.
see me looking away, that's what's happening.
Yeah,
Because the doodling helps me process too.
nice.
Um, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, it is.
I love it. So with these readings, do I keep asking questions or do things get funneled to you? How does it work?
I see it almost as like if your kind of soul has a journey and it's this big book, it's like when you say this chapter, it like goes kind of where then it's like, okay, whatever energy is wanting to come through here, then, then I can kind of start sharing. But there's almost this like this like waiting for you to tell me what chapter to turn to. Is kind of how I notice the questions function is
Oh.
just like, okay, tell me what area or what chapter you'd like me to turn to. Sometimes we just ask the question of, is there anything that my guides are wanting me to know, or Akashic Records are wanting me to know, and then it might kind of go there on its own. But there tends to be I think that's not necessarily needed because whenever that happens, what I notice is it's usually bringing through something that the person already knew they wanted to ask, but maybe they were just feeling shy, nervous, or anxious, or like not sure if they wanted the answer. So it's like the nudge of where to go is already in, it's present, it's active. It's like, oh, I kind of want to ask about this. And then if you don't ask it, then it's like, what does the records want me to know? And it's like, well, you were going to ask this. So, um, yeah. So there seems to be some, I don't know, maybe it's a component of autonomy and trusting in your own intuition as the process of asking. There's something, it's like a co-creative channeling process where you're also getting to kind of autonomously say, here's where I want to pull from, or here's what my intuition is guiding me towards asking. Um, I think is an important part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really in integrity and yeah, I like the autonomy of it. Um, oh, but now I don't know what to ask.
Yeah.
But it's funny because like you mentioned before about the past lives, I don't really have any interest in going into the past. I feel like I've done that enough. My eyes just changed.
Yeah.
Weird. Um, but yeah, I'm really interested more in like present and into future, and especially with my like what I know is my purpose. Like I know that I'm here to teach and to lead and to help awaken other people, and empower them. So yeah. Is there anything that I need to know about that purpose or this business moving forward?
Well, I just keep hearing there's something about your own channeling that is just a really central part of the work that you do. And so okay, what do they want about that? It just kept on repeating that when you were saying that. It's like we want to focus on how she channels and expanding her channel. Um, the comment you made about not being curious about the past lives, it's we get curious about past lives or even just our own past when it's currently something that we need to move through to get into towards the next, right? And so it's like we don't have to force curiosity into the past because that will come up. It's all kind of present moment. So it's like it will be curious about it when it's almost acting as a present block towards the next step or as the thing we need to move through or integrate or understand or alchemize. So we don't have to kind of force that or go like, oh, I have to go back there in order to go forward. It will naturally we'll go through different phases where it's like, wow, everything I'm doing is focusing on the past right now, right? And then but the clearing work you've been doing has been a lot of that, has been the work from, it's almost like I see it that we don't actually go back or look back. We just, it comes in front of us. The things that we've had that kind of come in front of us. This is what's now present for me. I'm feeling it energetically. It's in my mind. It's just in my current reality is thinking and feeling and reacting to those things that are now in my present. And as I work through and process through them, they're naturally making way and giving space for me to keep moving forward into what's next. And um and so yeah, I think that's more it's almost like that's more general information on just kind of the process of how this works and why sometimes we don't have the urge, nudge, curiosity to go explore the past because it's not needed at this current moment. Um, and then there will be another time when suddenly your energy is being drawn backwards, maybe to past lives, maybe just earlier in this life, because there's something again that's come up that is now needing to be alchemized to move into the next stage. But at this moment, you've done so much of that that there isn't a present past experience that needs to be moved through because you've done lots of the moving through, and now it's going, okay, we've created space for what's moving forward. So I think one of the reasons, again, bring me back to that Otter app. I think one of the reasons for that is because the the pulse, the heartbeat of the projects and the work that you do is really it's more channeled than you might even be aware of. And so the more that you can lean into that clear channel, it's like that it's almost like the clearing work you've been doing has been clearing the channel. So yeah, um, there's going to be a new way. It's going to come faster because there's more space for it to come through, which is why you need more tools and practices um, for encoding it because one's going to come through it, and then the next one's going to be there right to meet it, and the next one and the next one. So um, almost kind of in, let's say, a year ago, ideas would come through, but they'd have to kind of ping pong their way through different things. And then it's like, ah, here's an idea, and I can sit with this idea for a while. And then, oh, the next one kind of has made it through. But when we do this work where it's like opening up, suddenly there's just raining through of. And so we need ways of, it's almost like we have to upgrade the system to be able to organize all of the information coming through it at a much quicker rate. Um, So when you're asking about the business and the opportunities and the work that you're doing, it's really connected to learning, learning how, what is it saying? Learning how to kind of not filter, but like organize the information that's coming through. So they're saying clear and coherent in a clear and coherent way. So it's almost like you want the freedom of flow and fluidity and everything to just kind of move. And it's like, but it flows best when there's almost like channels for it to come through. So it's to hone the energy in a way that's being directed. It's like, okay, I'm going to set. Oh, it's so funny that I'm trying to describe the thing that feels like it's happening right now because I'm halfway through one thought and then the next thought and then the next image. And I'm like, okay, we're doing like an active practice of what this looks like. But I'm seeing almost like water slides in a way where it's just like water is going to be shooting everywhere unless we actually build like the structure for it to come and flow and then it can actually have some movement. Um, or like a hose. So if it's just out of the house and you're spraying, it's just kind of, psh, but then you put the hose on it and now suddenly that water can go. So we want to basically create when the idea comes through, I've got somewhere to chant, like to put it. I've got so that I can kind of start to see the mastery of what is happening because this one's going to come through and then this one's going to come through and they're going to seem really disconnected at first. They're going to seem like different ideas in different directions. But then down the road, then this one's going to come through and suddenly I'm going to see the link that's connecting this or that was setting me up for this or that I didn't know that this one was going to come through later on. And now this one is making sense in retroactive, but they're all important. And so they all need to kind of have their space that they can be um, kept because they're none of the information is random or irrelevant, even if it currently doesn't feel um, like it entirely makes sense. You know, like there might be an idea that's like, oh, maybe that's, I don't know, some future vision or idea, or maybe that's pretty random, or that's not possible. It's like anything that's coming through, it's still relevant, and it just you might not have all the pieces to make sense of it at this moment. So, yeah.
That really resonates.
Okay.
It really does. And yeah, the what do you want to call it? The voice note or the transcribing app?
Yeah.
I think that's really going to help because this is kind of how the workflow's been working up until this point. I have a Google Drive full of ideas
Mhm.
and I've been kind of like writing them as they come in and then I just leave them because I'm like, okay, this is for now and this is for later and I don't know where this is supposed to go. But yeah, you're right. Now that this channel is opening so much, I'm like, holy crap, it's like 100 times the information. I'm like, how am I gonna, what am I supposed to do with all this? It's like, I can't type fast enough. I can't like, and sometimes it's like, boom, this idea, then this idea. And then I'm like, I'm scrambling a little bit because it's so much
Yeah.
and I don't know, but you're right. It is like the system's getting an upgrade. My workflow system, my channel's been getting an upgrade from the inside out. I've been feeling that so much, but it's just like, okay, now it's almost like, okay, now it's on. Like we
Yeah.
thought that this was a lot, but now it's like it's on. But it's exciting. I don't feel scared of the process. I'm just like, hey, how do I handle this?
Yeah, exactly. It feels crazy. Like say that if the hose kind of comes off and water starts spraying everywhere, it feels like I don't even know which, angle to kind of like stop it at. It's just everything. So it's like saying that it only feels overwhelming when we don't currently have kind of the channels in place to let it flow. Because once we kind of figure out, okay, well, this tool is going to help, and then this, and here's how I'm going to start letting this information when it comes through, boom, it's like right away the voice note and it goes here and then this one goes here. It'll help it not feel overwhelming. It'll start to make more sense. But again, when we're just getting kind of almost sprayed in the face from all directions, then we can't metabolize any of it. Um, yeah, so I think the voice memo bit, and it seems a voice to text, so I think that's why it was coming through. I think the Otter app does that. It's like the voice to text instead of just a voice note. There's something, I think the voice to text will be helpful because there's also a different way of when you're reading it that you're gonna interact with it differently too. There's something about rather than just listening to it. So there's like the voice, you're hearing yourself say it, but then there's the reading it, which will help kind of organize the bits as well. But yeah, it's saying, yeah, the upgrade. It's almost as if there's a reason why AI tools are available to us now as well. It's like that in order for us to be able to handle the level of transmissions coming through, we need the systems that can also support us to kind of, it's like we can't just be in the world where it was just like rubbing two sticks together. Like we really need the higher technologies to be able to handle the higher levels of transmission. And so it's like don't be shy of the AI tools available, because they can certainly be um, they can certainly support the almost like even like theme connecting or alchemy. Like there's some availability of ways to being like, okay, here's all of these different things coming through. Can you help me pull out some themes here? Can you help me see some connections? It's like use the tools available because they're being brought into availability in tangent with kind of this awakening that we're seeing happening in many ways. There's a lot more energy coming through, and so then we also need in the physical more tools to support us to know how to, um, yeah, how to work with that.
And yeah, because I've used AI tools to like help me brainstorm, help me edit my stuff, but to actually take the channeled information and put it into the AI and see how
Yeah.
the guides will help with that too, probably.
Hmm.
Show me the map. It's like a mind map. I just keep seeing
Yeah.
a mind map.
Yes.
Okay, so like in meditations too, I'll probably see like interesting how they all link together, even if they don't look like they link together yet.
Hmm.
Okay. And also, there's like, I've been feeling more and more called to channel messages for YouTube.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a really important part of this process. And it's like, because I used to kind of have my talking points and then make the video and then do this. But now it's like, nope, just sit at your computer, turn your microphone on, tune in and channel, and that's what you're gonna do. And same, but it's that same kind of, it's a faster pace now, which is fun because I don't have to think so much.
When we're in the thinking about what's coming through, it's because we're navigating all these other voices in our head that we're trying to filter it through. So it's like there's all these other parts and there's all this other interference. And that's why we have to really think our way through it because we're like, wait, is that actually the channeled information or is that like this other thought or is that so we're really, actively. And that's why when you start doing the clearing, you can just get out of the way because the channel's clear and you can just trust what's coming through, that it is what's coming through. So that's why it's like, okay, I'm not needing the points to kind of keep me on track and keep me focused on what voice I'm wanting to be sharing here. It's that, okay, I've done a lot of work of understanding those other voices in there, of understanding what they were holding and believing and why they kept on trying to take the microphone. And now that a lot of that is settling and is kind of moving because any of the experiences that we move through have their own voice, have their own narrative, have their own internalized kind of microphone in our mind, in our consciousness. And so as you're kind of doing that work and you've been clearing that space, it's also allowing that mic essentially is what I'm seeing to kind of just be more directly connected to the channeled information coming through. There's also a big trust building exercise that happens when you do that type of work. And so it's also that trust of, okay, I can just allow this to move and I get to learn from as it's happening. I get to be witness to the information coming through. I get to be excited and curious about what's going to show up, right? Because it's not originating from me. I'm not generating it. I am transmitting it. I am channeling it. I'm the messenger. And so, yeah, when we're thinking, it's also coming from a position of assuming that we are the one that's making it up, right? Or that we're the one that needs to generate the idea or create the full thought form. When we're channeling, we're just allowing it to be transmitted without having to filter into our own perception of what we think that needs to look, sound, or feel like, um, or even whether it makes sense or not. Um, yeah.
That makes so much sense. That makes so much sense because I keep, as you're talking, I kept seeing this like log jam or like beaver dam. It's like, oh yeah, all of the kind of ego constructs and thoughts and your perspectives and interesting. Because
Because I can
even
even share, sorry, it's
yeah.
coming through right now because I can even share from my own experience in doing this work that what I notice is when when it's like the difference between thinking and allowing. It's when I'm thinking, it's when I'm, a part of me suddenly says, oh, wait, where is this going? And it tries to jump to the end to know, like, what's the point I'm making? Where is this going? When I'm channeling, I'm just literally word by word experiencing it as it's coming through with absolutely no idea where it's headed. Which is, again, the trust flow, right? It's like, I want to go on the boat, but I want to know the full map and I want to understand where the destination is versus like whitewater rafting. I'm hopping in. I don't even know what's around the next bend, but here we go. And it feels that way energetically to the ego parts of us that are very much because we filter things out of the fear of the of rejection, of perception, of what people are going to think. Like I don't want to just say something that sounds ridiculous and not have a point to make and just people just sit there and go, I don't know what to do with that, right? So we're always kind of thinking ahead of whatever we're saying. We're going, okay, what's the point I'm going to make? And now I'm going to use words to get us to that point. Channeling is, I have no idea where the point is. I'm just like along for the ride and letting it come out, which is why you actually can't pre-structure your videos if you want to channel them. Because if you're pre-structuring them, you're doing that process of, I've got the point I'm going to make, and then now I'm going to take the steps to get there. Channeling is the opposite. It goes, I have no idea where we're headed, but join me for the ride. Here we go. And boom, we just start letting it out. So that's why it has to be actually fundamentally set up in a different way. Yeah.
Hey, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, I'm learning from this as I'm talking. So my favorite part about doing channeled work is that I'm just like, whoa, I feel that.
I know. Well, and even my last few YouTube videos, I even it just came out of my mouth channeling. The name for them is Intuitive Adventures, because that's what it is. Like it
Yes.
feels like a little bit of a scavenger hunt. Like, hey, here we go. Like, let's find the first little clue, and then we'll go to the next one. And it's like,
Yeah.
and it's so wild. And I get into the zone, and I can like 25 minutes later
Mhm.
we kind of go on this adventure and then it almost sometimes circles back around to where we started to but it's like I haven't I could never have gotten there on through my own devices. Like this is completely spirit
Mhm.
like and it's so cool and then I watch it back I'm like holy crap. Like I needed to hear this too.
Right? Exactly. It's so interesting. I pulled this card before. It's called Come to the Edge. And it's really this just energy of, and I don't know if it's like coming in clear or not, if you can see it, but it's just absolutely this energy of it's this trust fall. It's this leap of faith. And it's also the what you've done up until this point, you can't continue to do in that way. Like it requires a different level of surrender and taking the leap. It's like come to the edge, peer over the edge, and then let's go. And I was even feeling that before doing this because this is my first time that I'll be really publicly sharing um, channeled work, right? That I even do this. And a huge bit is because my ego has been terrified to say that I do this because 5 years ago, I was not only skeptical, I was absolutely outright critical of anything in this world of woo. Now, like, woo, that's quite the transformation in a short amount of time. And even only a few years ago did it really start shifting for me. And now this is just like, oh, this is who I am and what I'm here to do. And I'm so excited to see it expand. But I have this awareness too that goes, me 5 years ago, there's many versions of me that exist in the world still that, and I'm going to fully understand why people are going to perhaps not resonate with this, maybe deny or reject this, or in turn, what feels like reject me. And and there's the reason it's coming to the edge, the reason it is a trust fall is because we don't know what's going to kind of come from taking that leap. And inevitably there will be people that don't understand. There will be even people closest to me in my own life that really I I've just learned it's not the thing that I can talk about or hold conversation with about because there's a lot of resistance to it. And again, I understand that. I'm not judging that because I was very, very strongly in that position too, not that long ago. Um, but the kind of nudge that I can see that you're feeling is really this next level of just fully releasing into it and letting that start to be the source that really does create the work that you're here to do. And I'm feeling that too. And there's the kind of like, ooh, the nervous bits, right? That like they get a little shaky. Oh, the wobbly knees at the edge. Yeah,
Totally.
our
Yeah.
nervous system.
I'm right there with you. Because, yeah, when I first made and posted that video, I was like, this could be kind of polarizing. And I'm a little bit afraid of, like, yeah, how people are going to receive it. But finally, I was like, you know what? This feels like such a fundamental part of who I am
Yeah,
and where I want to live and how I want to interact with these energies and what I want to actually share. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
people can unsubscribe. People
yeah.
cannot understand. That's okay. We have free will but the ones that you will connect with
Mhm.
get it and they're on the same wavelength. And even if they're not, it's okay.
Yeah, there's something so interesting that I'm seeing with that when you were saying, because first of all, what we say is I'm worried that people aren't gonna receive this or they're not, and it's what we're really saying is I'm worried they're not gonna receive me. I'm worried they're gonna reject me, right? That's the fear-based part of us is saying that I'm the face of this thing that they're receiving and it's gonna would naturally fear rejection because again if we drop down into the nervous system it was like our first survival based needs. We need acceptance because we can't do it on our own, so it makes sense. It's not, I don't think we have to see it as like less spiritual or less evolved if we have fears of rejection, because naturally we do. That's, we're also in a human body and in a nervous system that's wired for acceptance is survival and we need people to like us in order to, right? That's just very deeply in there. So I think um there's a piece of like people can unfollow, but then what I was seeing also is that it feels good when people are resonating with the information that we're sharing with what's coming through, because that feels affirming and supportive and it can be expansive. But it's almost like what I can see is the information that kind of bumps people, that disrupts something, that actually kind of it's almost like it's sandpaper that's kind of hitting a rough edge, and that it's uncomfortable and it's like that's actually almost where I'm seeing where the expansion is happening, right?
Yeah.
Those that are already resonating with it are also kind of already aware of it in a sense. It's the real kind of work that's being done isn't just in the affirmation of what we all kind of collectively agree on, but it's more hitting the edges with the where it's bumping up against the edges, that maybe at first there's an instinct to unfollow, but then there's something that's still stuck with you after that, that's going, I can't unhear it. And I'm
Yeah.
pissed off about that because it's making me think something differently, and that's inherently uncomfortable. So it's almost that the discomfort is where you know you're really doing the work. If you're only ever saying things that make everyone all the time happy and peaceful, which doesn't exist, it's not possible, but if that's our goal, then that means we're actually not doing the work in the sense, right? Where it really is the discomfort, because any transformation we've had in our life, we can almost, always pinpoint it to some version of discomfort we had to first face before we moved through. So I don't know, when you were saying that, I was kind of seeing of going these glowing edges of where the expansion happens is really where the discomfort is being hit. So it's actually we do it fearing we might disrupt some people, or we might, have judgment or rejection or something coming, but it's like that's it's almost the intention of it secretly without our awareness, because we're like, no, I don't want that, but like the work, the energy, the transmission that's coming through is actively intentionally there to disrupt for the sake of allowing that opportunity for the question mark to appear that says, okay, maybe there's something here that I don't want to face. And maybe that in itself is where I have to start. Why don't I want to face that? Why don't I want to get curious with that? Why does that make me so uncomfortable? Why do I just want to just shut this laptop and turn this whole thing off? That's bringing forward the part that's ready to be with. So interesting. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's
I have
like the secret
chills.
work. Yeah. The secret work being done through us that we don't know, that we're really scared of, but it's actually the thing
Right.
that's most necessary.
Yeah, that's so wild.
Yeah, I even remember because when I think of, especially when I go, okay, 5 years ago, I was really in this place, and now I'm like, holy crap, that's unrecognizable. what got me there? Well, it was certainly wasn't everybody just saying everything that I currently felt, thought, and believed at this stage. It
Mhm.
was the discomfort of reading Many Lives, Many Masters. It was the discomfort of, all of reading the Surrender Experiment. It was the discomfort of having conversations with people that were doing things that I, at that time, like channeling, like mediumship, like psychic work, that I, at the time, was very judgmental and critical of, and encountering that discomfort and then getting into, okay, why am I so scared of this? What are the parts of me that feel this is so evil, bad, wrong? Where did I get that? Where did I learn that? What taught me that? Is that mine? Is that my truth? Or is there a fear-based belief system that I kind of just internalized and accepted, and now it's actually no longer kind of fitting with this other nudge that's trying to pull me out of that safety zone? And so, it really is those moments of discomfort. That's the only way I got from here to here. It wasn't from people just saying what made me feel good. It was from getting uncomfortable with the things that I had previously just actively done a really good job of avoiding, which we do. Like, I'll just avoid the things that aren't currently aligning with what I want to feel and believe because that's uncomfortable. And sometimes we just need to have those moments because life can be challenging on its own, and we're like, I can't take it all at once. So, space out my discomfort, please. But,
Yeah,
it's also there when we're ready to encounter it.
totally. Man, it is. It's totally the discomfort. You just made me reflect on my own little discomfort that I had to face over the last little bit, just getting to the point where I was willing to take that leap and
Mhm.
start to actually share channeled messages on my YouTube channel. Funny that we call it a channel, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, but I'd been channeling messages, but on the DL. I wasn't calling it channeling
Yeah.
because I didn't want to
Hmm.
be that person. But yeah, when I started feeling really uncomfortable about even calling it channeling or starting to post these things, I got to the point where I was on the verge of panic attacks because I was like, this is so scary for me to post this. And then I was like, but why?
Yeah.
Why? Like, what's the actual fear underneath all of this? Like, it's not just about YouTube videos. There's something else here. And like you were saying before about how things from your past will come up into
Hmm.
your awareness to be dealt with. Like this is, and I saw on your website too that you work in the internal family systems model.
Hmm.
Um, this was like real core wounding that was coming up to be witnessed. And I actually have been working with a counselor who's trained in internal family systems, and it's been freaking mind blowing.
Yeah.
So beautiful. But it was so uncomfortable. I have not been like that uncomfortable in so long because it was like really getting to the core of my human wounding. And
Yeah.
it was like, but it was so uncomfortable, but it's felt like almost like a purifying fire, like the golden edges. It's like trying to stretch my wings kind of past the edges. I want to get past the edges, but it hurt.
Yeah, it does. Well, I see the discomfort as a way that that protective parts of us try to keep us away from the pain. If
Yeah.
I can make it so uncomfortable for you to reach there, maybe you won't. Because I'm afraid that if you do reach there, it's going to cause you the pain I've been trying to protect you from. So I think the discomfort is actually a really loving, protective part of us trying to really dissuade us from leaning in to those places and to those parts. Because that discomfort, it's the sign that we are getting close to something that we really do need to feel in order to understand what needs to heal. But the discomfort is the protective part saying, are you sure you want to go there? Like, do you really want to? We don't have to. We've been doing a pretty good job of staying away from there, right? And it's like I'm going to try to make this as uncomfortable as possible so maybe you don't. And that's why one of the powerful bits of internal family systems is this real love and appreciation and respect for the protective parts, that we're not going in there to bulldoze past or bypass them, but we're actually just really wanting to access that kind of higher self energy that says, I'm coming in here with love, compassion, and the capacity to move through this. Because those parts are going, I'm terrified that if you actually go there, you might never come out of that deep, dark hole. Right? Like that's that inherent dread. When we ask those parts, what do you think is going to happen if I go there? Why are you making me so uncomfortable? Why don't you want me to access that? Often we'll say and we'll go, I know this sounds ridiculous, but it feels like I might die. Right? There it can feel genuinely that threatening to the system where it goes, I don't know what's going to happen. And so I think the discomfort is the sign that we're nudging up against something that really is holding an energy that would like to come through, but there are parts of us scared to allow access, if that makes sense. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And I wasn't even really aware of those protector parts, and being able to see them, speak to them, see what they want to say. It was like it was mind-boggling. But it did, for me, at that point, got to the point where I was like, I did feel like I might die. It
Yeah.
was like it was such a visceral, somatic reaction to getting so close to what I know it wanted to come through and be processed, but it was like, we've been we've been protecting you from this for your entire life. What are you doing? Like, don't go there. And it did feel like, yeah, I might, like you said, go into the pit and never come out.
Yeah. And the feel like I might die in a visceral way, our nervous system doesn't know the difference between perception and reality. So when we're going in and accessing memory, it's as if it's happening all over again. And that's why it's the kind of the combination between the internal family systems, but the real respect of the somatic process of really going in a way that feels safe, supported, resourced, and kind of titrated with that. So we don't create that huge explosion is so necessary and important because we're also building safety with that part that is currently holding the really intense trauma energy, whether it's big T trauma, little t trauma, whatever the trauma itself is, what did that make me feel and believe about myself? Because that's what's ultimately so threatening. And so we're kind of embodying that part in the moment. And so that's where the it can become so overwhelming. And in order for it not to be, is to really make sure that we're accessing from the self energy and not from the parts of us that are terrified of that energy, because then it will kind of enmesh with the protective parts that are saying we can't go there, it's too much, it's too intense, or we embody the energy of the part of us holding it that goes, whoa, I'm fully in that experience again. And in order to be able to bring that part back, I also have to reconnect to that higher self of compassion, of connection, of curiosity, of right the self energy that can then witness, understand, and support that release and transformation. Because otherwise, our nervous system just goes, how are we 4 years old again in this moment? I don't know, but it's real and it's happening, and here we are, and it's responding as such, right? And that's the kind of wild part about working with the nervous system, is that it really, if we're going, why am I so stressed and anxious all the time? It's because there's our nervous system doesn't know we're currently safe. It's still holding the activated energy of the different experiences in our life that made us not feel safe, and doesn't know that in this moment I'm actually safe. The wisdom of the yogic traditions with mindfulness, with meditation, all of it is trying to bring awareness back to the present moment, because what that's doing is giving feedback to all the other parts of us that are kind of lost and frozen in time. The information that says right now we're safe and it's okay to breathe, and we can start to soften and we can build capacity back in our ability to be here now, um, which doesn't feel accessible when we're actively dysregulated, meaning we're actively holding energy of past experiences that don't feel safe. So it's intense. It's big
It
work.
is intense. Yeah. But the beauty of IFS that I've found was being able to actually take a step back and kind of see things more objectively. Like it's funny because I've been doing so much work on myself for the last 10 years. But when my dog passed in November, it was like it brought up all of this emotion that I wasn't expecting. Like I was expecting the grief, I was expecting all of this, but I was like, I went right back to being 10, 11 years old emotionally. And
Yeah.
that's what prompted me to reach out to someone who does this work, because I was like, this is much more than just grieving my pet who was my best friend. Like this is it almost felt like it opened the door for this work to happen, but it was like the days leading up to my first session, that's when it was like, holy crap, I felt completely out of control of my mind, my emotions, everything. It was like everything was happening all at once. It was almost like I was now going through the process a few times. I kind of understand that I was fully immersed in my, like, those parts experiences, fully immersed with multiple at the same time.
Yeah. It was, because we still have your records open, there is something that when you were sharing that experience that suddenly I just kind of saw from a perspective of the animals being very much spirit guides and kind of soul journey companions for us. And that there's it was almost like I could see the reason why animals don't live as long as us is because there's also a really intentional part of their role, which is in the passing. They're also offering one of our biggest gifts, which is exactly the process you just experienced, that opportunity to come through. So it was like seeing kind of that really loving gift, almost that soul contract from the animal that said, I'm going to come in, I'm going to love you so hard while I'm here. But what I'm really going to do is I'm going to love you so hard when I go, because that's going to provide this next level that's going to open up for you, because I'm here ultimately to help support your expansion as a soul. And this is really where almost that next level love comes through. So that was a really beautiful image that when you were just describing that, of seeing that really intentional purpose, that kind of divine plan of our pets not living as long as us, because there is a gift. They said, I'm going to come and bring you this, not just the companionship when I'm here, but I'm bringing you the gift of what gets to happen for you in my passing, even though it's going to cause so much pain. Um, yeah, I love that. Yeah,
That's so beautiful. Oh, and yeah, it has been such a gift. A painful, very painful gift,
yeah.
but equally as beautiful. I feel like for me personally, and it's funny that we've been talking about the heartbeat and the pulse and all of that, because for me it's been this like giant heart opening. Probably why all of this stuff came up to be processed too, because it was all for me in the heart. And it's like it, yeah, it's like the grief cracked my heart open, and but the cracking open was kind of the stretching. Interesting. I'm almost seeing it like that's the part of the channeling.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but even as you were describing the animal's person, the animal's purpose, I could feel it in my heart, but almost um, like a pulse, but like an energy that's kind of pulsing and opening and pulsing and opening, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I don't know where I was going with that.
When we have almost what I'm seeing when you're saying that is like when we shield ourselves, because when we have heartbreak, we just naturally want to shield, but there's actually no pulse. If we think of just the energy of a pulse can't happen in a static environment, right? There has to be movement, there has to be flexion, there has to be we what is it's like this expansive energy that needs the flexibility to move. And I think part of that kind of cracking open is like if there was this hard crust almost that's not allowing that heartbeat to really move. It's like, oh, that hurt to have it cracked, but now it's also creating the space for it to feel again, for it to heal again, for it to um regenerate too, is almost what I'm hearing with that. There's a regenerative component, because otherwise we stay um Yeah, it's almost this energetic necrosis that happens when we don't allow ourselves to fully feel through the process of grief, to fully feel through the 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 full spectrum of our emotional experience here, that there's something that just kind of stops. And it makes sense that it stops again because it's absolutely terrifying, on just like that visceral, just nervous system, survival based level, to lean towards the thing that feels like heartbreak, feels like the pain that should kill us, and it doesn't. And that's the most cruel part about it, is that it doesn't, right? That there should be no way that I can feel this much pain and still be alive. What the hell? That's not fair. And so it makes sense we don't lean towards it. And yet there's something, just this regeneration and this almost, yeah, I don't know. I'm just seeing this kind of, a hard shell that gets to start moving, and the hard shell just being the protection from the feeling. But um, yeah, the channel that you're opening is really that phenomenally courageous willingness to feel that through that protection. And so discomfort is an understatement of what it takes to get there, right? Um, yeah,
That was a lot.
yeah.
That makes so much sense though, with
Mhm.
the heart wall. And it was like, and maybe that's why for me too, it was getting to the point where I was getting so frustrated with my YouTube channel and the process and where everything was, because it was like it just feels so limited. And even in my life in general, I was starting to feel so limited. Like I was only really showing the parts of myself that I thought would be acceptable. And I just got to a point where I was like, I'm so fucking tired of this. Like, I'm so tired of this because there's so much of who I am that's so vibrant, expressive, creative, big that I want to show, but I feel like I was starting to feel like that part of me was slowly dying.
So interesting. You just had such, I feel like that was a really big download, because what I saw was that representation. You're going, like my YouTube channel, for example, just felt like I was restricted in it. Like I couldn't, like it was just limiting and restrictive. But it's like that's exactly the metaphor for also our life, of just like this is what happens. And it's so interesting because I'm holding this heart, and it's this really hard selenite heart. But there's this, it's like if we want to expand, if we want to get to the next level, by the very nature of that, we have to expand the container. And the container is the kind of protective shell that's saying, okay, I'm trying to hold you safe right here. And we're like, great, but I can't move, I can't breathe, I can't, like I've kind of filled this up. I've grown as much as I can in this space. But the only way to get to that next level is through that protective layer. That means feeling through whatever's there, like that kind of past coming forward. It's like what we're doing is we're just coming up to the edge. This is the edge that's currently holding me in this space, in this shape, in this form, in this version of myself. And it's the only way through is through. Um, there's a Trevor Hall song that was just, uh, on repeat for me when I first came to the island and doing my yoga teacher training. And it's in and through the body, it's the blue sky mind, but it's the in and through the body. Was like, we always want to go up and out. We want to jump over. We want to find a way to detour. We want to like bypass at any means. And it's like it's in and through, and it's in and through, and we kind of drop into this heart space through, because this is where that felt experience is living. And it's terrifying. And every time we've ever done it, we also know it's so damn worth it, because there is freedom, there is healing, there's release. We think that by avoiding, by dissociating, by managing around the pain, that somehow we're being able to live without it. But the truth is, it's existing there all the time. We're living with it. If we don't want to be limited by and living in the pain as it's currently held, because I think when it comes to grief in particular, we're always going to have the marriage of grief within our system. That, but we fear certain spectrum of the emotional experience where we think that's bad. And I think, no, there's beauty in sometimes having those tears that come through. It's um that love language in connection with that which we've loved. And when we fear it and we try to shove away from whatever it is that we're currently holding, there's also a limited experience of joy, a limited experience of expression of self. There's a limited experience that we're having, and we're not avoiding it, we're holding it, we're living with it. It's still existing within us. It's still acting. We're just not consciously maybe connecting to it. Whereas the fear is I have to feel it, but when I feel it, then I actually start to allow that softening to happen and that moving through it, um, for what's kind of calling me forward. Um,
Mm.
and there's a reason we didn't come here to do this alone too, because there's a lot that needs to be held in the safety and support of another person and a witness that says it's okay to be scared to fall apart because I'm not going to let you stay there forever. You know, we get to the edge within ourselves often going like, I don't know why, I just can't get through this piece. And it's because there's parts of us saying, yeah, because I don't know how we're going to stand back up if we fall down. But when there's somebody else present and it goes, okay, you're going to pick me up, right? If I fall down. And there's a reason we also don't have to do that alone, and often can't. Um,
Well, yeah, because especially with this kind of work, you can't see it. Like it has to I wouldn't have been able to see everything myself. I needed that sacred mirror, the witness. I needed to know that I would be safely held and supported so that I could go there and I could go that deep. Because otherwise, if you're just by yourself, I don't know, you can get lost in it.
Because also what you just said and what I saw from it's so interesting having this conversation while your records are still open because I'm getting different information as we're as we're
It's
talking. But
cool.
yeah, the being safely held and supported. It's like I can't get through that healing unless I'm safely held and supported. Well, often the very healing we need is the experience of being safely held and supported, right? That it's not just that that is what allows the healing to happen. It's like that actually often is the healing. It's that in the process of connecting to the parts of us that are holding the pain, we're being held and supported. Because when we ask those parts, what did you need? What did you not have? It often was, I wasn't safely held and supported through that. That's why it's encoded as a trauma, because not being safely held and supported through that made me believe some really harsh and painful things about myself. So there's an actual, it's not just, okay, that's what sets the container for me to meet that. That's the energy of the healing that is needed, and that part is going, why would I come forward and be felt if that's still not present? Because that's the very trauma I'm holding, right? So it's like I'm seeing that when you're saying, okay, there was this safety in holding, it's like, yeah, because that was the energy that parts of you really needed to feel, was the energy of safety and holding. Um, yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
It's spot on.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see it from that perspective. I think I have interpreted it in the way of going, yeah, when the safety is there, then the healing can happen. But it's actually the safety itself is the healing because that's the energy that many parts of us are needing.
100%.
Part
Yeah.
of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I'm having that moment too, going, oh, that's what I'm doing in session.
Right?
Oh, nice to know.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm experiencing when somebody else is doing that for me and holding that space for me. Yeah. It's
Mm.
allowing that to be translated into and met by the parts of me that have been desperately needing to experience and feel that. Hmm. We should always do podcasts with the Akashic Records open.
I was just thinking that.
It's so much cooler than what I would just be saying on my own.
Right? Oh man. We could make this a regular thing. I would
Yeah,
go into it.
right? Yeah, we channeled episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have some people write in some questions and do some group readings and insight. That'd be very cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Man. I'm loving this.
Me too.
Man. And you know what's interesting is like I knew that my dog Jack was getting ready to go. And it was almost like my guides cleared my entire schedule for 1 month on either side of his passing. I had no calls, no work, no one was booking anything. And I started kind of freaking out a little bit. I was like, this is what's going on. But it allowed me to be so present with him in
Yeah.
that last month. And it allowed me to be so present with the grief afterward. And I've never felt grief like that. I've lost people, but he was like my furry soulmate. Like, and it was like I needed that space to actually go into it. I was a little bit afraid to go into it, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to let myself just feel all of this. And
Mm.
I was a train wreck for but I really feel like I needed that. Like I needed the space to actually feel it all and to actually process and to go down memory lane and do all of the things. And like, we don't, I don't think we allow ourselves that much space to actually process grief. And society definitely doesn't give us
No.
the space, but it was like it, there were there was so much magic around his passing too, like synchronicities, supernatural things happening. We had guides and angels around that even my partner was feeling, and he's not usually like doesn't usually feel that kind of stuff. And it's been well, experiences like this, I use the term excruciating beauty because it feels like it's gonna rip you to shreds, but it's so beautiful at the same time. And yeah, but it was like completely, my schedule was cleared for 1 month on either side. And then as soon as I started feeling like I could come back up for air, then I start getting calls and bookings again, and it's all fine. So there's been so much to this process that's been like teaching me how to trust,
Mhm.
but also there was some other reason that I felt called to share that.
Well, because I think something that you touched on was this, we treat grief like it's a luxury rather than a necessity, right? That we actually go, I'm sorry, I don't have the luxury of stopping to feel this because if I do, then everything else is gonna fall apart and I'm not allowed to create that time and space to grieve because our society is treating grief like a luxury, not like a necessity, whereas it really is. Like spirit kind of came in and just the divine coordination of your schedule clearing was saying this is a necessity. This isn't a luxury. This isn't like a self-care on the weekend thing. This is absolutely necessity and we need to prioritize that. And we know that you're not being supported externally by society to say you're allowed to do this. And so we're just going to take care of it for you. It's kind of the most loving wisdom that goes from spirit perspective. The things that we think are priority absolutely can go on the sidelines. Whereas like, we'd be surprised. There's going to be, I can almost energetically feel people listening being like, screw you, there's things I can't do. And there, where, and it's like, so what happens is a lot of parts of us start screaming at that, right? Like for me, and I have screamed at that many, many, many times because I'm going, sorry, to break down right now, I don't have the luxury of doing that because I have significant financial debt and therefore I need to figure out how to put food on the table. And for people that have children, they're just like, I'm sorry, I can't just stay in bed because they need to get out of bed for kids. And I think there's I think again, this is why it's a societal issue where we've set it up so that grieving, healing, feeling is a luxury because we're not supported and prioritized to be allowed in the space to do it, right? We actually are in very many times environments where we don't have the luxury to feel our experience because life is requiring of us to be so hyper independent to hold it all together. There isn't that, maybe more traditional, we'll say feminine oriented systems and societies and cultures that were saying, hey, it takes a village to raise a child. Hey, it's not all on you. Hey, we're going to have this community type support that says when you're falling down, I'm going to hold you up over here, and vice versa, where we are set up in a way that is very isolated to the point that says our healing is a luxury, our grieving is a luxury, our feeling is a luxury. Survival requires us to put those things on the side. And and that is inherently damaging to us when we're set up in that way. That means, okay, now my body has to hold it. Now my nervous system has to hold it. Now I'm so my pressure cooker inside is so built up to the point that I'm trying to do the things, but I can't even think. I'm trying to be kind to my partner, but I'm screaming. Right? It's so inherently unkind that we've set up this system that says, sorry, your grieving, your feeling is a luxury that we're not going to support you with. And so you're going to have to figure out how to make obscene amounts of money so you can take off the time or whatever it is. It's set up that way. So that's where I think that I can feel the immediate internal pushback of going like, hello, it is. And I think that's true. I think that is unfortunately the reality. And how can we cultivate connections, communities, friendships, supports, spaces where we can recognize from that higher wisdom that says what's really priority is our feeling, is our healing, is being able to ask for help and lean on the support and provide the support and have that type of dance through our human experience, because all the stuff we're doing we can't even effectively do if it's at the sacrifice of what we're having to hold and suppress and you know um, store in order to keep functioning. It's like we if I want to move forward, I actually have to stop moving altogether, and I need to feel through to be able to have that energy again, that kind of solid wall. Like it's like that needs to be able to breathe, the heart needs to be able to beat, the lungs need to be able to expand so that I can keep moving. And yeah, that's the big question mark. How do we set that up? How do we support the space for healing to not be treated as a luxury? Um, I don't know.
I think that's a gradual process, just like it was a gradual process for us as a society to get to the point where we are now. Because in more ancient cultures, I know that there was so much more ritual around these kinds of events, around, you know, loss and grief. There was space made for that, and our communities were built in such a way that, okay, if someone was going through grief and needed to be in that space, then we can band around them and take care of the kids and take care of this, and we'll make sure that you're fed and you're watered until you're ready to come out of it. Like there was such a more communal model. So I think slowly but surely we'll get back to something like that. And I feel like that's maybe why so many systems are breaking down right now in society, is because they're not sustainable. They're not sustainable. They're draining. They close us, they harden us, and it can only go that way for so long before everything cracks.
Right. Why is burnout the hottest topic of the day, right? Everybody talks about burnout. Burnout is like in our vernacular like never before. Because right now, again, we're treating the feeling, the healing, the resting, the rejuvenating as luxury. Well, that's what happens if we do that. And if we create the society that pushes that, we will burn out. It's not sustainable. We can't. Like our system isn't designed to be robots. Um, we have to be allowed the support and the spaciousness to feel through the lived experiences that we have. Because otherwise it inevitably does build up in the nervous system like a pressure cooker, and we burn out. Um, or we find ourselves moving through life in functional freeze where we're moving on the outside, but we're completely numb and dissociated on the inside. Um, And none of us came here for that experience. I do know that, as the fullest expression of our experience. So, how can we just be consciously supporting, um, recreating space that really honors and allows the process of being human to be allowed ultimately, you
Hmm.
know? Because look at the healing that is coming for you. Look at the expansion. Look at the channel that's opening because you were given that beautiful opportunity of space in your schedule and the willingness and the courage to feel into it. Because we can have space all we want. It doesn't mean we're going to be using that space in the way that it is required to have that shift happen. But you said, I have the space. I could panic about that and I could try to fix my schedule. And I've definitely done that too, where it's just like, no, why is it all disappearing? I have to. And then when you take a step back and go, oh, okay, why is it disappearing? Maybe it's not from a bad perspective. Maybe this is a loving perspective. Maybe there's a reason to this. Maybe there's actually something this is offering me in the spaciousness. And when you were willing to lean into that and to feel through that, that's not that long ago.
No,
And look at how much you've moved through in that time and what you're now experiencing because of your willingness to lean into it.
it's bananas. And I did go through that panic at first, like, oh my God, I don't have any work. And it's already been like a month at that point. I'm just like, this is crazy. And I've gotta pay the vet. I've got to like pay the aftercare. I've got this. Like my mind was freaking out.
Yeah.
But eventually I was like, okay, we've been an entrepreneur for how many years? How many ebbs and flows have we gone through? The work will come back. It'll be okay. And I had to remind myself that ultimately I can only control so much. I was like, hey, maybe, yeah, I had to just lean into it, but it was not, it was not easy to do. But I was like, okay, fine. Like if I've got the space,
Yeah.
let's just do it.
Yeah. I will say that I can say these things. And then if I want to be honest with how I actually function in my life, I so effectively make sure that at any given moment, there are 10 online trainings that I've already signed up for that I could or should be doing, so that I don't ever end up in that really threatening space where there's actually nothing. Because that means then I have to be with whatever's waiting to meet me there. And I think so many of us, it is so wild to understand this and then to also witness myself do that. To go almost like my thumbs are doing something without my awareness, where I'm like, did we just pay for another training? Because what does that, or 10 audiobooks that are started? Because there's always this kind of cushion that says, don't worry, you'll never actually have to stop. Because if you stop, then there's going to be something waiting for you in that space to feel, and we're actively running away from it. So we develop this cortisol addiction too, where we're just like, why can my life never stop? It's just so busy and I'm so exhausted and I just want to get to that moment of peace. In the meantime, we're just like super actively scheduling everything and buying everything and doing everything so that we never get to that most threatening thing. So often, the very thing that we deeply desire is the thing we're most terrified of.
Yeah.
Right? When we're in those spaces where we're not in relationship, for example, and I do lots of work now in supporting people and women particularly in relationship and in healing through the process towards relationship. I deeply desire a partnership. I deeply desire a relationship. And my biggest fear is opening my heart to relationship again, right? It's like the thing I desire the most is also the thing I fear the most. And I'm going to find any and all ways to make sure that I'm protected from ever actually having to open my heart again, even though I'm up here being like, where the hell is, my partner? Where are they? I don't like why aren't they coming yet? I'm doing all this stuff and underneath it's just everything's like pushing it away and being like, nope, nope, nope. And we're because it's the thing we're also fearing the most. So that's this kind of wild, why do we work so hard to get the money? Because we want and we go through all of the stress because we go, okay, well, what do I want to feel? Oh, I just want to feel freedom. I want to feel ease. I want to feel relaxed. Right. But I'm actively not allowing myself to ever get to that point. There's no definitive point in which I'm allowed to finally rest because that very rest I'm desiring is the most threatening thing because that's going to be the moment I actually have to be with whatever it is that I'm currently just pushing down over here. So whenever my schedule clears now and it happens, suddenly it's just like boom, the void and panic sets in. And I think the real panic we think is, how do I pay the bills? And that makes sense. Of course, we live in a world with money. I think the real panic is, no, 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 no. Like, don't make me go into that void because I know there's a breakdown coming.
Yeah.
I know that this is the void. That's the doorway into my breakdown. But I've also since learned that every single time I'm being invited into a breakdown, it's because there's that next breakthrough that's wanting to come through.
100%.
Right? Where now I'm just laying on the floor crying to my partner and just being like, when is the breakthrough coming? I know it's coming. You know,
But
I
this
know
sucks so hard.
it's so hard, so hard. I don't want Instagram to see this version of me.
Oh, and when you're in it, it just feels like it's never gonna end. You're gonna be in it forever.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's one thing that comes up in session often too, is just I'm terrified to go there because I don't know if I'll ever get out. And it's like, well, have you ever been indefinitely trapped in the void before? Right? And we'll go, well, no, like I made it through. I eventually got out. It wasn't fun. It wasn't easy to be there. But we don't actually have a lived experience that proves to us we'll never get out of it. Because if we're still if we're still here, we got through it. We got, you know, but there's that deep fear that says, nope, this one's different. This one you're never getting out of. And again, that discomfort that's trying to keep us from really allowing ourselves to feel into and through it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I think that's an important reframe is just knowing that when you do feel that discomfort and that kind of before the void, that it is happening for your expansion and for your growth. It might not make it easier to go through it, but if you can keep that in mind, like for myself personally, I've noticed we're just reminding myself, like, okay, there's always a breakdown before the breakthrough. Always. Breakdown, breakthrough. Like, but in the moment, it's like, it doesn't even help sometimes, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Doesn't mean you feel it less.
Exactly.
But having that awareness also does give some purpose to it, and that helps. So it doesn't mean it hurts less or you experience it less, but it
Hmm.
means that at least I know there's some purpose to my pain here because I know even if I can't see the end line or the finish line, I know there's a breakthrough that's wanting to happen. Because it's like if we say, "Hey, I'm here for the expansion. I'm here," like I don't want life to just look exactly how it's looking right now for every moment for the rest of my life. I'd like to experience some new things. I'd like to grow and evolve. Well, guess what? The only way to do that is if we think of that hard shell. We've grown and we now need to move through that. So the breakdown is breaking through that that hard shell we've currently built. It's like if I want to expand into that next experience, the only way through is through. It's in and through. And so it feels like so often defeating, like, oh, I thought that I had done all this healing and here I am on the floor again. It's fascinating how much my breakdowns really bring me to the floor. It's like there's something about just laying on the floor crying that just feels very symbolic of what the breakdown looks and feels like, and that's
Oh,
usually where I end up.
for me too.
Yeah. Just trying to like be held by the earth or something, just get as low as possible. But really, it's like we've said, hey, I want to grow. I want this new experience. I want, even if we say I want more money or if I want love or if I want whatever it is, what's on the other side of where we currently are. And in order to get there, okay, there's some things that need to be healed through. And the only way to heal them is to feel them. And the feeling them is going to freaking suck. It's going to be really hard. But it's because we're trying to take you to the very thing you want. We're not going backwards, we're going through. So the healing, again, it doesn't make it less painful, but it starts to give more purpose to it. The feeling starts to be not this, this defeat. If I thought I fixed that already, I thought I healed that already. Why is this coming up again? It's like, no, there's just a new layer. You
Yeah.
did. We're not taking away from all the work that happened, and there's a new layer. Thank God we don't get given it all at once because that would be too much. We're just given what we're ready to be with at this level, at this level, at this level. So it's like, oh, I guess I've graduated to my next level when the next breakdown's coming. Not, I'm going backwards. It's like, oh, all right,
Yeah,
here it
right.
comes. First, try to run away from it as hard as possible, and then it catches up, and oh, okay.
I know. Oh man. Wow. How is it 2 o'clock already?
Yeah. No kidding.
That's what happens when we're channeling.
I know. There's just so much information that there's so much of this lived experience that we share. And it is true that we feel so alone in it, and yet it's so shared, right? It's, the most lonely feeling is just laying on your floor crying, feeling like everything's falling apart, and then not realizing there's just so many of us laying on the floor crying all at the same time. And then we look on Instagram, we're like, nobody's crying, they're all going to Bali.
Right.
It's just like reinforced. But the truth is, any of us here, which is all of us that are here to grow, to expand, to learn, we're having the breakdowns. There's a
More
lot to
than
talk
we'd like
about.
to admit.
Yes, very much.
Yeah. Mm. I would definitely like to do more of these with you if you're open to it.
Very open to it. This is so just like energizing,
Yeah.
just life-giving. I think what I should do is close the records because we've just like let them be available for this, and I really appreciate that. But I want to honor the guidance that came through as well. I'd like to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion. I would like to thank the lords of the Akashic Records for their point of view. And I'd like to thank the Holy Spirit of Light for all knowledge and healing. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen. That's so interesting. We both had the nudge earlier. I think we should record the Akashic Records portion. Oh, okay, because they want to just be part of the experience of this.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is, I could feel the nerves beforehand because I knew, okay, I'm that this one, the coming to the edge of just like, I've been hiding behind the science in many ways out of safety of just going, it's easier and safer to talk about the nervous system. It's easier and safer to talk about narcissism. Um, it's scary as hell to talk about channeling, to talk about intuition, to talk about guidance, to talk about Akashic records, right? That, and yet it's all one and the same. Like the information that comes through is connected to the experience of the nervous system, which is connected to the personality expressions of our trauma, which is like all of it. It's just, yeah, it's just time to kind of allow that to be present and spoken about, and we do the brave thing by by allowing the space for that. So thank you for allowing the space for that, creating the space for that, um, trusting me with the space for that too.
I'm so happy we did this. So
Yeah.
happy to have this space. So, okay. Um, for everyone who's watching, I'm going to put all of Carissa's contact info in the description box so you can contact her. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.